All right, guys, it is just about time to get going. I'm gonna grab a drink. All right. If everybody doesn't mind, put their name in the chat box, where you're from, what's your fence company, your deck company, whatever your company is, put it in there and say hello to everybody if you don't mind. Got a pretty full house tonight, so can't wait to see who all's here with us. And for those that don't know, it's just some general housekeeping stuff. I think you can raise your hand on here. You can ask a question, and then you can also do the chat. So there's several ways to communicate on here, and they all work, and I can see all of them. So we will take your questions. So my name's Caleb Roth. I'm the owner here at Stain and Seal Experts. We're a fence and deck stain and seal company. We stain fences and decks in the Nashville market. Been doing it for a pretty good while now. And that is what we do. We also, a bigger part of our business is we manufacture oil-based fence and deck stains and wood cleaning chemicals. I don't have any examples with me at the moment, but maybe somebody will bring me some. But that's what we do. We bring products to the market that make your job easier. So yeah, there's a fan deck. If you don't mind, would you bring me a couple of the 32-ounce cleaner bottles over there? And I'll show guys what we're talking about. But anyways, that's what we do, and that's who I am. And I've got an extensive background in the fencing industry. So that's where I started, was in the fencing industry, and then moved over into staining and sealing. And then as that business grew, I found a huge need for wood restoration. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I don't have a power washing background. I don't have a wood restoration background. I just was a fence guy who just kind of figured this stuff out. And I want to share that with you guys today. So that's it. So again, going to go over some people. Josh Kraft, Amarillo Fence Stain Unlimited. Awesome to have you here. Brock Hensley over in New Bern, Indiana. Carl's Painting, Standing at Home Improvement, opening just a stain business on the other side of the house. Cool. Naming it End Stain in the Membrane. Cool. All right, guys. Appreciate it. So looks like we got more folks in here. Jacob, Justin, Keela, Odell, Stain Man, Kenny Dugan. Kenny, you need to be running this. Why don't you do one with me? Go ahead and commit, and let's do one maybe next week or the week after, Thursday night, 6 o'clock. So let's get started. I'm going to do a brief overview about the staining business. So if you're brand new to this, you have no idea about the stain business, I'm going to buzz right over this because this is not our topic, but I'm going to bring you up to speed a little bit on what's going on with the deal here. So we're going to talk about the industry. How big is it? What can you stain and seal? We kind of already know that. So we'll make this talk to what can we restore, and then we'll go from there. So the industry, how big is it? I always start with this one here because I want people to have a growth mindset and not a retraction mindset. So I want people to realize that the global wood coatings market was valued at $7.8 billion in 2018 and is projected to reach $11.98 billion by 2025. According to Allied Market Research. And I think with the rising cost of lumber, the market's going to be even bigger than that, because this was taken in 2018. This is a survey based on 2018 numbers. 2021 numbers are way different than 2018 numbers. So I think by 2025, we're going to be maybe closer to $20 billion in this industry, which that's bigger than the fencing industry. So if you're a fence guy, staining is bigger. So the idea is that this is a really big pie here, and there's lots of pieces, and there's plenty of seats at the table here. So our goal was not to create a bunch of competition and bottom markets out. Our goal is actually to educate people to the fact that it's a big market and there's room for everybody here. And we should all know one another and work together so that everybody goes home a winner. So many of you come from underdeveloped markets, and you could be the original stain contractor in your market. That is very possible. And then also highly developed markets, like let's say Dallas-Fort Worth. We've got guys in Dallas-Fort Worth that are crushing it, even though there's tons of competition. Because a lot of the guys in that market have grown complacent. The consumer is used to the same old when it comes to stain contractors. And when somebody new comes on the scene doing things a little bit different, taking it up a notch, they see tremendous growth in their first, second, third year because they're just making waves, and the market was not ready for that, but they were ready for that. And so here we are. You could be the new kid on the block and really make a mark in your marketplace. And if you do that, you're really probably not going to take anything away from anybody else. Because like I said, it's a $20 billion pie we're looking at here. So good deal. So let's dig right into wood restoration. Wood restoration. Look at that fence there. That fence in this picture. And if you guys don't mind, give me a couple thumbs up to make sure that you can see my slideshow here. I just want to be sure of that. If you can't, something's wrong. So this picture here, this is wood restoration. This is a fence. It's got this lichen or whatever you call it growing on the top. I call it carpet. You know, those fences that have so much stuff growing on them, it's like a layer of carpet. And this is a really nice fence. It's trimmed out with pine posts. We got could be cedar or pine trim boards, but definitely cedar 2x4, cedar pickets here. This was a really expensive fence to build. So whoever built this, it cost a lot. They spent some time and energy to build it, and whoever paid for this obviously spent some money on this fence. If they were to build this fence today, it would probably cost, I'm guessing, somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 a foot on the low end, and could be as high as $70 a foot in some markets. So why couldn't we just restore this? If the fence is structurally sound, we could definitely restore it. And this is a pretty bad case here, but it could definitely be restored. We can make this look brand new. We can save the customer money because it's going to be a lot cheaper than building a new fence. And we can also put some money in our pocket. We can grow our business with jobs just like this. Obviously, this customer's got these arborvitae trees in the background. There's looks like a laurel or magnolia. These people care about their yard. So they're probably willing and very good candidates to do this job, get wood. So the opportunity, old fences, old decks, cabins, etc., present a great opportunity to those willing to clean them up. Wood restoration there's no doubt it's going to continue to gain popularity as wood and steel shortages continue and lumber prices continue to soar higher than ever before. I mean, it's unprecedented what we're seeing in the lumber market, in the steel market, and just about every market right now. And people are a lot more prone to restore wood. Here in Nashville, we're seeing a huge amount of people calling us for staining and sealing their old fences and their old decks because they just got a quote to rebuild them, and it's through the roof. And so we can add life to their fence and we can save them some money. And a lot of times we can do it and they get a better fence than the new one because a lot of the new lumber is not as good. So again, we're giving them better value. So never before has there been such a demand to preserve wood fences, decks, siding, etc. And I just got a question. This will be about wood restoration. Yep, we're digging in right now. We're just getting started, but yeah, we're going to go deep here in a minute. And a pump up sprayer and a cheap power washer is really all you need for wood restoration. So that is the opportunity. And then for some of you new guys that don't know what you can restore, there's a lot of things that you can restore: fencing, decking, old fences, pergolas, patio covers, gazebos, shutters, boat docks, much more. So pre-staining does not go in there. But anyways, let's talk about PPE before we get started. Anytime you're working with chemicals, stains, sealers, chemicals, bleach, caustics, things of that nature that are in this industry, you want to take care of yourself, for you and for your family. So if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids or your wife, your significant other. Put on the PPE, which could be eyewear, respirators, masks, headstalks, gloves, whatever you think you need, full suits, whatever. Put on that appropriate gear just to be safe. Even, there's a lot of guys that get burnt by bleach and things like that, and it's very easily avoidable with a $2 suit and a $10 mask. So, and here's another warning: don't use backpack sprayers with bleach or other chemicals. They've got a diaphragm in the bottom. Those things leak sometimes. And when it's 100 degrees and you got warm liquid running down your back, you don't even think about it. You just think you're sweating. But chemical burns start burning and they don't stop burning, sometimes for 6 or 10 months. And chemical burns are really bad. So don't use backpack sprayers for wood restoration. All right, the housekeeping's over. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the chemicals. We're going to talk about the chemicals, and these are the chemicals that we make, but we're using industry and trade names for them. So I'll show you the way we make them, but you can get these things anywhere and you can do wood restoration with them. So we're going to identify the chemicals, then we're going to identify the processes and the bidding of wood restoration jobs. And then we're going to go through and look at a bunch of different jobs that we've done here locally in Nashville and just look. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to look at a job, look at a picture, look at a project in person, and identify what level of cleaning that needs to be done and what chemicals to use and what the process is going to look like. And we're going to get it to where immediately you're seeing these jobs and you know exactly what to do and you know exactly what to charge for it. So let's get started with wood restoration chemicals. So the right chemical for the job will do a couple of things for you. It's going to make cleaning easier. It's going to reduce your time on projects. It's going to leave wood a more natural color than using something like bleach. It's going to prolong the life of the wood, and it's going to enhance your stain job. If you put stain on a dingy fence, it's going to look okay. But if you put stain on a really brightened up, nice restored piece of wood, it's going to pop, and you're going to make more money and grow your business faster doing it that way. So the webinar, good. We're good on questions. All right, let's keep moving. So we're going to start with the most basic thing that guys use. Everybody has at one time or another used bleach, most likely to clean something, whether it be your laundry, your kitchen sink, or maybe the deck in your backyard. So sodium hyperchlorite is the trade name. SH, some of you know, some of you guys use it for power washing, soft washing, but it's bleach. And it's a cheap way, but it can damage wood if you don't use it the right way. Bleach kills light organic growth and removes graying from the wood. So that gray stuff, whatever that is, it will bleach it. And diluted to 1 to 3% is a good choice for budget-minded customers with light to medium grade fencing. Really not recommended for decking or cabins or stuff with heavy organic growth because it works on the surface. So if you got a bunch of layers of stuff and then the wood is down here, it's going to work on the top layer and stop working. So there's other things that we can use that'll dig a little deeper and make our cleaning portion of the job faster. And also you should neutralize bleach. It's an oxidizing chemical. So you should neutralize it with a brightener, just like all the rest of these chemicals. The next one that is probably the most commonly known, most well-known, is we call it eco cleaner. It's sodium percarbonate. It is oxygenated bleach is what a lot of people refer to it as, or sodium precarbonate, some people call it, but it is sodium percarbonate. And we call it eco cleaner, and ours is green. When you put it in a pump sprayer, it turns green so you can identify it quickly. But sodium percarbonate is kind of an eco-friendly cleaner. It's very mild. You don't have to worry about it killing a bunch of plants. You don't have to worry about it burning things like bleach does. So this is a really good intro chemical to wood restoration. And this one is one that you can feel good about and your customers can feel good about, because it's not going to kill their plants. It's not going to kill their dog. It's not going to kill their fish. It's not going to do crazy things like some of the other ones will. It kills organic growth. It removes light stains from wood substrates, and it really works well. A cool thing about eco cleaner is it foams up when it comes into contact with organic growth. And I'm going to give credit to the Stain Man for this tip. It can be boosted with hydrogen peroxide. So if you've got a job that needs an eco-friendly cleaner, but you need a strong one, you can boost eco cleaner with a little brown bottle from the drugstore of hydrogen peroxide, and it'll work that much better. And that foaming action that you see with eco cleaner is really, customers love to see that. When you put something on their fence and it doesn't smell like bleach and it foams up and they've got all these scrubbing bubbles on the fence, they will pay money for that because it makes them feel good. They feel like they're really getting value out of it. It's perfect for boat docks, jobs with lots of landscaping, or concerned clients. And it comes in powdered form. I really like powdered chemicals. because they give us flexibility. And Eco Cleaner in particular turns green for easy identification. But there's a couple things you need to know about sodium percarbonate. One is you really need warm or hot water to mix this stuff with it, to activate it and to break it up and get it in solution so you can use it. Secondly, you need to use it pretty quick. I recommend you mix it and use it, but it's good for about 8 hours. Kenny can probably correct us on that if we're off, but it's good for about 8 hours. It's probably longer, but it's going to start going downhill and losing effectiveness the longer it sits. So don't mix this the day before, mix it the day right there before you're going to use it. Just like other oxidizing chemicals, Eco Cleaner needs to be neutralized with a wood brightener after you use it. And I got a question here I'm going to hit while I'm here. If you're running 1 or 2 gallons of sodium percarbonate and you want to boost it with that hydrogen peroxide, I don't know that there's a set industry standard. If you've got a little, maybe a 10-ounce bottle, pour the whole bottle in there. I mean, if you need power, go for it. It's only a couple of percent in sodium or in hydrogen peroxide, so I don't think you can overdo it. Let's see here. The next one, this is our go-to chemical here that we use for decks. Stainman says 6 to 8 hour shelf life on the Eco Cleaner. So 8 hours is the limit on that. Down to wood cleaner. This is our go-to here in Nashville that we use on almost every deck cleaning or restoration that we do. And this is our middle ground. It works really well for, I'm going to say, 90% of the jobs. 5% above needs something stronger, and 5% below needs something maybe not as strong or more eco-friendly. So this is sodium metasilicate based cleaner. It turns yellow when you put it in water for easy identification, obviously. And again, this cleaner is a heavy cleaner or a mild stripper that kills organic growth, just like the Eco Cleaner kills organics. It also has a magical stain lifting ability. I know that sounds kind of silly, but this cleaner will actually lift those like tannin stains from leaves. Have you ever seen somebody leave leaves when the leaves fall down and they stay on a deck or concrete all winter long, and then they expect you to magically remove it in the spring and all the leaf stains to go away? Sodium metasilicate or wood cleaner, it'll remove those because it's got that lifting ability. It lifts stains up, and it can also loosen dead cell wood. So if you got a lot of organic growth or a lot of dead cell, really gray, just super old wood, it'll break all that up and make it really easy to sweep away with a medium pressure with your power washer. It also leaves wood a more natural color than bleach, and also even more natural looking than even the Eco Cleaner, the sodium percarbonate. It will remove lumber grade stamps. So if you're doing wood restoration, you generally don't have to worry about that because you're doing a pretty heavy clean. If you're just doing light wood restoration, where it's maybe a 6-month-old deck and you just want to do a nice clean, you can put a light dose of wood cleaner on it, and it'll remove all those green or black lumber stamps that say pressure treated pine, number 2 grade lumber, and they're everywhere on the deck. This will get them out of there, which is an upsell to your customer, because people, they don't want to see that on their wood. It will also remove some old coatings, and it does a really good job of not fuzzing the wood when you get the hang of it. You can go really strong with this stuff, and you can fuzz wood, but generally this stuff works really well without fuzzing the wood up. So this is a great tool for your toolbox. Again, it's in powder form. You mix it, it turns yellow. For easy identification, you can mix this with cold water, and it stays strong for a pretty good while. I don't know of any shelf life for this, because I know a lot of companies mix this stuff in water and they sell it on the shelf. So we're assuming that it has a unlimited shelf life. But again, I would mix it and use it pretty quick. I don't like to leave chemicals mixed lying around, because liquid form is more dangerous than powder form, because powder can stay in one place where liquid can run everywhere. And again, like the other chemicals we talked about, wood cleaner needs to be neutralized with a wood brightener after you use it. And now we're going to talk about the strong one, stripper. There's some misconceptions about stripper, or maybe not misconceptions, maybe misconceptions and unknowns that people don't understand or realize. So wood stripper, sodium hydroxide or sodium with a sodium metasilicate blend is our main wood stripper. Right now, because of shortages in the industry, we're using a potassium hydroxide stripper with sodium metasilicate blended into it in a red color. So what you get with this wood stripper is a hot, fast working wood stripper that turns red in water. So you know it's hot, it's wood stripper. It's a powerful stripper that removes old oil-based coatings, kills and loosens organic growth, heavy organic growth. It will remove it. So the misconception I'm going to talk about really quick, a lot of people think that they just need wood stripper and it will strip anything. Wood strippers are really designed, unless labeled otherwise, for oil-based coatings. And they work great on oil-based coatings. If you're doing a water-based coating, you need to boost your stripper. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. We've got a booster that can go in it, and it will make taking off water-based coatings a lot easier. So wood stripper makes the power washing portion much faster on full restorations. So sometimes you're going to see our crews pulling out the wood stripper and going with a medium dose of wood stripper on an old fence that's got a ton of stuff growing on it, like this one right here. Wood stripper is exactly what I would use, if not on all of it, at least on this top cap. I would probably do a quarter to a half cup per gallon on this one, and then maybe a full cup per gallon around the whole top cap. And what I'm going to get, I'm going to get all of that organic growth, all this dead cell wood, and all this lichen on top. It's just going to loosen right up, and medium pressure will remove it. Instead of being there all day and having to really bear down on it with a power washer, I can just do some nice light pressure, maybe even soft wash, and all that's going to go away. And so wood stripper equates to, and when you're using wood stripper only for organics, you're doing it as a time-saving tool, not necessarily to remove an old coating, but you can also use it for removing old coatings. Again, can be boosted with butyl booster to remove stubborn water-based coatings. And again, it's powder form. I like it because powder form is flexible and safe. And when you put it in water, it turns red. And a word of caution about wood strippers that you need to know is, number one, when you put these in water, you want to use cold water, because as soon as this stuff hits water, it gets hot really fast. It's going to produce its own heat, and we don't want it to boil. So if you start out with 100-degree water and you throw wood stripper in it, there's a good chance it's going to actually boil over. And if you put it in cold water, we have less chance of that. And as soon as you put it in, you're going to feel the outsides of your pump up sprayer, and you're going to feel that it is really hot, and it will burn your skin. And back to our PPE, I'm going to give you a warning. Strippers are caustic, and they will remove paint. They will burn your skin. They will kill plants. And you got to use personal protective equipment, full PPE, and extreme caution, because these things, it's a strong chemical. So you need to just be cautious when you're using these, and you need to know what you're getting into. It's not a super hazard. It's not going to explode on you. It's not going to catch on fire, but you are working with a strong chemical. And strong chemicals make our life easy when we need them, but we've got to give them the respect that is due. And just like all these other oxidizing chemicals, bleach, eco cleaner, wood stripper also needs to be neutralized with a wood brightener. And what neutralizing means is it's bringing the pH back to a normal level, where we need it to be. And it is also, it's stopping the action of cleaning. It's stopping the action of stripping. So when you put wood stripper on, and as long as it's wet, it's going to work. It's going to do its job. When we neutralize it, we're stopping that process right there. All right, it's clean enough, stop it. Also, and wood stripper, it's just like any of these other things, fuzzing the wood. It can fuzz wood. All of these can fuzz wood, and all of them can be used in ways where they don't fuzz wood. And there's some projects that are just going to fuzz, and you just need to know that up front. And we're going to try to identify that. I didn't do a slide on fuzzing, but we're going to do a big talk on fuzzing with each one of these projects. And last but not least, for our cleaning, stripping, here is our butyl booster. We use butyl salicylic. It's what the industry has always used for boosting wood strippers, and it just basically is a solvent. It's an alcohol-based solvent that goes into your sane stripper, and this will pull off paints, it'll pull off semi-transparent solids, it'll pull off those stubborn water-based stains. Usually for us, a good semi-transparent water-based that's maybe 2 years old, if we go with just a heavy 1 cup per gallon stripper with 10 to 25% butyl booster, in about 5 minutes, that stain's going to be coming off. It's going to go right through it quick. So you're going to use this stuff at 10 to 25% of your total mix for boosting stripper mixes, and it's a clear liquid. Same PPE rules apply. You want to make sure you protect yourself. And the last step with all of these, every one of these is step number 1. Step number 2 is wood brightener. We talked about that. Wood brightener is oxalic acid based. The one we make is 100% oxalic, and it must be used to neutralize all cleaning chemicals and to restore the pH. You mix in with cold or warm water I like to use a tip that I learned from Jeff over at Deck Medic. They do about 3,000 decks a year, is to use a paint strainer bag. Everybody's seen them. You can get them at Home Depot. It's just like a tea bag, but it's a big one. It's a paint strainer bag. You put your oxalic in the strainer bag and basically make a tea bag, and you can throw it in a 5-gallon bucket of water and just let it steep in there. And then you can pour out of and just keep filling that up. And the big ball of oxalic acid will stay in there, and it'll just keep making a brightener for you. Another way to do it is just to go a cup per gallon. Mixing instructions are on the front. You can go less. You can go 4 ounces per gallon. I like 8 ounces because it gives me a really fast pop, and it works. And I like to see where we've brightened, and that mix will do the job for you. It's going to go on about 200 square feet a gallon. You sometimes more, sometimes less, and it neutralizes oxidizing cleaners. It opens up the wood grain, so the wood grain's closed. It helps to open that up, and which in turn makes your wood accept more stain when it's time to stain it, and it brightens the wood back to the natural color. And it clearly changes wood back to the natural tone. So, and another reason you really have to use these to neutralize and brighten is because as we go to here, when we use Eco Cleaner, not a whole lot of tannins are going to come up. There's going to come some, the wood, and you will see a very big change when you use Eco Cleaner. When you brighten Eco Cleaner. When you get into wood cleaner, when you apply wood cleaner to a surface, the wood's going to visibly darken on you. And the reason that's happening is all the tannins in the wood, the color inside the wood is actually pulling up. It's going to the top. And we got to get rid of that, right? Because we don't need an orange cedar fence. We need a pink or a red cedar fence. So, and the same thing with the wood stripper. Some wood strippers will turn the wood almost black. It pulls so much tannin out of the wood. And so you can't leave the job with black wood. You've got to neutralize it. And when you put wood brightener on there, it's going to immediately pop back to that original pine or cedar or spruce color, whatever species you're working with. And so you can't skip that step. Another reason you can't skip the step is you don't want to come back, stain the fence, and then a year or 6 months or 3 months later, see white spots start to come up through your wood. We've seen a lot of guys that use bleach on pool decks or use bleach on just regular decks that don't neutralize. They'll rinse the deck off really good. They'll stain. And then a couple months later, they'll get bleach spots on the new stain in places. What's happening is the wood absorbed the bleach. It went down into the wood, and it's still working. And as that bleach came back up later, it's bleaching the old finish. I don't know how it works, but it happens. So something to be mindful of. If you don't neutralize, it can come back and bite you. So you definitely just want to go ahead and do that step. And it's really satisfying to watch, and it's going to make your jobs look way better. And tannins, TANNIN is a tannin. And it's just, you know, I'm not a chemist. So I really don't know what the heck a tannin is, but I know it's part of the color in wood. And I know they tan hides with tannins, but it's just something that is inside wood. And that's it. They're a yellowish brown color. And when you put a cleaner on wood, it brings tannins out. I bet Mr. Kenny over the Stain Man will add in here in the chat exactly what a tannin is. But for my purposes, it's just a tannin that comes out of the wood. Standard mix rates. I like to standardize things in my business to help us scale our business. So we've come up with some industry standard. We didn't come up with them. These are just standards that a lot of people go by, and they're mix rates. And these work for everything. So if you're running eco cleaner, wood cleaner, sodium percarbonate, sodium metasilicate, sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, any types of wood strippers, you can use these rates, and they're going to get you pretty darn close. So standard mix rates for powdered chemicals, again, freedom and flexibility. A 1/4 cup per gallon or 2 ounces is good for a light clean or very light strip. And we'll talk more about that later. A 1/2 cup per gallon is really good, or 4 ounces per gallon is really good for a medium clean or a medium strip. 1 cup, 8 ounces per gallon is really good for a heavy clean or a heavy strip job. That's pretty much it. Some guys go way heavier than that, but it's really overboard. So stick to that. What I see us using most in my company is the 1/2 to 1 whole cup per gallon for most of our cleaners. The 1/4 cup per gallon is going to be used on some really light stuff, or maybe you've got a fence that needs something. Maybe you don't have eco cleaner or wood cleaner, but you do have stripper. Well, you could do a 1/4 cup per gallon of wood stripper and get a real close result to what you would get to a 1/2 or 3/4 cup per gallon of wood cleaner. So just some flexibility there. And butyl booster, I like to go with percent. 10% to 25% will really work well for those strip jobs that you got to boost. So now we're going to talk about how much does this cost? How much can I charge for this service? So let's dig right into that. Let's see here. So basic wash. So basic wash, we see a lot of guys doing basic wash. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to talk about money. So I know there's some antitrust laws and things, but we've done market research and just kind of went all through the market, and we're going with what people are actually using, what people are actually charging. These aren't necessarily our numbers, but these are what guys are charging in a lot of markets. And we'll talk about it. What are guys charging? So let's dig right into that. And I'm going to change this number because I know that number has recently changed due to chemical increases. But basic washing for fencing is usually, we see guys charging anywhere from 10 cents on the low side to 30 cents per square foot from our research on a 200-foot fence. 200-foot fence is 1 to 2 man hours. And you're basically what is a basic wash? A basic wash is basically applying a diluted bleach mix to fencing. So 1, 2, 3% bleach. Some guys will buy Clorox and pour it straight on there. That's a little strong, but 3% bleach mix is a good starting point. And they rinse it away. Sometimes they don't even rinse it away. Sometimes they leave it on there, but most guys nowadays are rinsing it. They're rinsing all the structures around the fence, the landscaping, and they're doing it in 1 to 2 hours, and they're charging around 10 to 3 cents per foot. Just, I'm going to add that up. So you have 200 square foot or a 200 linear foot fence multiplied by 12. That is 2,400 square feet. If you do the math on that, multiply that times 3, that'd be 30 cents. That'd be $720 to do a basic wash on that fence. So on the high side, and if you divided that number by 3, that would give us the low side, which would be $240 for 1 to 2 man hours. So, and I think if you got pretty decent equipment, a lot of guys can go in and bleach a fence in an hour. It's pretty common. So the next step that we see is more of a 5-step process for decking. We're going to talk about decking now. And I don't recommend bleach. I recommend a basic bleach wash for fencing those low jobs. You know, some people who can't afford a full restoration or higher end chemicals, and that's where the bleach comes in. I mean, we're never going to get rid of those lower end customers that just don't have as big a budget or as much income disposable that they can get rid of for fence cleaning. We all work for those kind of builders or those contractors that they want it cheap, cheap, cheap. And basic wash with bleach is a perfect solution for that. I'm not going to call it vandalism. You can vandalize people's property with bleach, but if you're careful and you know what you're doing, it's a pretty good alternative to some of these other chemicals. So for the 5-step cleaning process for decks, that averages somewhere around $2 to $4 a square foot from our research. Would consist of the following. One, if you're using a really weak chemical like Eco Cleaner, sodium percarbonate, something like that, you might want to go ahead and do step one, sanding away lumber stamps. If this is a newer deck and you can still see them. If you're using a stronger chemical, you won't have to because the chemical will take them off. But you're going to apply your chemical like Eco Cleaner and allow a proper dwell time. So that's a new word, dwell time. You need to start remembering and thinking about. Dwell time is how long the product sits on the surface and works. It could be anywhere from an immediate, you put it on, it immediately makes a change, kind of like bleach, to some of these chemicals are really hard strip jobs. You might have to strip 3 layers of stain with like a 45-minute dwell time. And the key to dwell time is the product's got to stay wet. The chemical has to stay wet to work. If it dries, it stops. Most of its effective working stops. So there you go. But you keep the chemical wet for 5 to 15 minutes, which is average. Then you rinse the chemical away, keeping the house and landscaping wet. You apply your wood cleaner or your wood brightener. You wait for the color change. You want to make sure all the color changes to what it's supposed to be. If it doesn't, you need to add more brightener. Then rinse the deck and all the structures, and you're good to go. You can do this same method on a fence minus the wood stamp removal. So you would call it a 4-step process if you wanted to go with a step process for your marketing. So that's pretty much that. That's $2 to $4 a square foot. If you're doing it on fencing, it may be more like 40 to 65 cents or 40 to 70 cents a square foot on fencing, on high-end fencing. And so there you go. That's kind of what the market's looking like for a nice 4 or 5-step cleaning process on fences or decks, which is really not a bad thing. It's not a bad place to be. It's still a pretty fast process. Part 2, full restoration for fences and decks. A full restoration is where we're going with something like the fence that we showed you earlier. We're doing a full restoration on it, or maybe we're stripping off an old coating. So maybe you got an old paint on there, an old solid stain, and we're gonna get rid of that. So I would call that a full restoration. It averages somewhere from $5 to $7 per square foot on decking from our research, and around 50 cents to $1.25 per square foot on fencing. So pretty good numbers there. If you get good at it, you can do well. The first trip. So this is a 2-trip process. Your first trip, you're going to wet down and mask the house or landscaping. If you're using a wood stripper, you can do full restorations with the medium or the light chemicals. But generally you're using a stronger chemical when you're doing a full restoration. So you're going to apply the chemical like wood cleaner or wood stripper, and you're going to allow the proper dwell time. Keep the wood wet. Notice the dwell time on a full restoration changed. It can be anywhere from immediate 10 minutes or less to 45-minute dwell time. And again, what do we got to do? We got to keep our chemical wet. And the best way to do that is with a mister. And most people don't carry mister nozzles in their pocket for their garden hose. So what do? You put in a high pressure tip in your power washer, you hold it up in the air and you just mist. We're not going direct onto the deck. We're just spraying and putting that big mist in the air to keep things wet. And next, we're going to power wash the fence or the deck at the lowest effective pressure to remove the top layer of dead cell wood. What is dead cell wood? Dead cell wood's all that gray crap on top of your deck, and if you are on top of your fence, or organic growth can be on top of that even. So the chemical is going to loosen all that up. It's going to make it real easy to power wash it away. And the better your chemical is, the less work, the lower the pressure you have to use to expose that new wood, that clean wood up underneath. And you want to look for full passes. So make sure your guys are doing full passes, the full length of the board, and keep the house and landscaping wet at all times. So what do I mean by full passes? I mean, you want to go from one end of the board all the way down to the other end, and you want to go the width of the board. So if my decking board is this wide, I want my power wash fan to be that wide. If you go in the middle, sometimes you can get away with it as you get better, but to start, go the width of your board, go all the way down and all the way back if you have to. Sometimes 1 pass, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 or 4, depending on the level of the job. But if your chemical's right, usually one pass down and one pass back is plenty. Be wary of wanting to start and stop on and do this with your power wash, because what happens, you do this and then you've got all these little lines in your deck or your fence. So it's best, if you've got a spot that's really nasty here, go all the way down and all the way back up. And if anybody knows what a pendulum motion is, it's when something swings and it goes up on the ends like this. Terrible example here, but a pendulum motion swings up and swings down. We don't want to start and stop on the deck. We want to go up, come down. And anytime we're applying pressure to our deck, we want to start and pull the trigger up high and then bring it down onto our wood. Same if it's on a vertical surface, spray up high, come down and then back up and stop here. We don't want to start and stop on our wood, because it's going to leave those gouges that we got to work on later, that we got to sand out, that just look bad. You take their money, but you're still embarrassed of the job. You don't want those. So you can eliminate that with just good nozzle control, and just always be thinking pendulum motion, in and out, full length of the board, and you'll do great. Next thing you want to do is you want to apply your wood brightener. Go a cup per gallon of wood brightener and wait for the color to change. You're going to notice that immediately, and then rinse the deck and all the other structures nearby. I like to start high and start rinsing, work my way down. If I'm on a deck, I'm going to start washing the gutters, make sure the windows are clean, and just work my way all the way down and finish with the landscaping, so that I've made sure I've not left anything stuck to the house. You know, if you're removing old paint, you don't want to get this paint soft and remove it, and then you blow it all on the side of the house, and then it dries, and now you've got paint on the house. That's a disaster that can be avoided with either masking or just keeping stuff wet and being mindful with how you're moving off of the deck with your pressure. You always want to move away from the house. So it's very common sense. Wood restoration is not that difficult. It just takes some time, and you have to be intentional. Just be intentional, and you should be just fine. You know, most of us have enough sense to know when we're messing something up. And a great guy told me once, he said, if you think you're fixing to mess up, don't. So maybe that will help some of you guys. And again, here's trip number 2 for wood restoration. And this gets into fuzz. A lot of times we can do cleaning and light restoration work without ever fuzzing the wood. Sometimes when you do full restoration work, you're going to fuzz the wood. Sometimes decks or fences, they just fuzz up and you can't avoid it. And anybody who will tell you that they can do every job without ever fuzzing anything, they're probably telling you a story. So just expect you're going to fuzz some wood. You can learn to use lighter chemical, less pressure, and get the same results that you were getting before by using heavy pressure or heavy chemical, if you just learn to finesse things and get your timing right and your technique right. So what do you do if you fuzz wood? Well, you come back and you sand it off. If it's a rough cut fence, it's usually not a big deal if you fuzz the wood. It usually doesn't look too bad, but you don't want too much on there. If your wood's really fuzzing bad, you can remove it with pressure, power wash pressure, get it off there, get it on the ground. It's going to look like a pulp factory, but on super, super old wood, it's got a lot of organic growth. Sometimes you've got to remove that layer of wood. If we're doing decking, low pressure is best, but if you got to use higher pressure, or maybe it's a deck that's in this range that I'm going to talk about, it fuzzed a lot, you can come back and sand it. What do we want to sand with? Pretty basic stuff. You can use a hand sander, palm sander, things like that. We use a 12 by 18 floor sander. You can rent those at Home Depot or Lowe's for anywhere from $40 to $60 for a day. And it's literally a 12-inch by 18-inch square orbital sander. You put it on the deck and it's like a vacuum cleaner. It will sand a big deck in just a few minutes. You want to watch out for nails sticking up and things like that, but you can move really fast. Once we discovered the 12 by 18 floor sander, our life changed. We no longer dreaded sanding decks because we knew we could do a better job when we sanded, get a much better finished finished job, looked much better, and we could charge more for it. And we found a way with the right tools to make that much easier than being on our hands and knees all day. So the 12 by 18 is an awesome thing. We've got them. We keep them now. We own those tools and we use them a lot. But what you're doing, you're sanding the decking to remove fuzz or lifted grain from the cleaning process. Most fencing, again, does not require sanding, and I wouldn't sand a fence unless it was just some kind of crazy high-end project. Be careful not to remove, like I said before, galvanizing or coating from deck nails or screws. They may need to be reset. So resetting screws is a service you can provide as part of your wood restoration that you would add on. Hey, your deck's 30 years old. The screws are all sticking up a 1/4 inch. You're going to stub your toe on it. So why don't we just go ahead and for whatever price, we'll reset all those nails or all of those screws. And now you can run your sander over it without any issue. Once you get done with that, you want to blow or sweep the deck free of dust from your sanding, and then begin your staining process with a penetrating oil-based stain. You can use hand sanders, you can use buffers, you can use a lot of different tools to make it fast. And a general rule of thumb is you can usually sand a deck as fast as you can stain it. So if you're one guy sanding it all by hand and you're one guy brushing the deck all by hand, probably going to take the same amount of time. If you got a crew out there and you use a floor sander and then you're going to use a sprayer on the deck, it's going to take the same amount of time to sand it. So there you go. That's a good, I think, really good advice. And it's something I wish I would have known when I started this business. It would have put a lot more money in our pocket. I mean, just to be honest, because it's a high-end service that people are afraid of. So let's talk about fuzz for a minute. I want you guys, if you've done any wood restoration, raise your hand, give me a thumbs up or something, and tell me if you agree with this, if this is what you see in your area. In our area, what we see is we see a window. If there's a timeline laid out here of how old a deck or fence is, we see when the wood's new from that 0 to 6 month old mark, we're not seeing really any fuzz. Maybe even 0 to 1 year. If you clean a deck that's that new, we don't see any issue with it. Generally, we can do whatever we want, use as much pressure. You can go overboard on your chemical when it's forgiving. You're good. That 1 year, beginning into 1 year, and that 2 year up to the 2 to 3 year old decking, for whatever reason, there's a lot of dead cell wood on top of those decks, and they typically fuzz up. And you got to be careful. So that's why we just started sanding all our decks. Once you get past that point, like the 5, 6, 7 year up to 30-year-old decking, generally you can do a full strip, full restoration, put the strongest chemical you want on there, wash it, and you don't get fuzz. That's not the rule, but it's definitely a trend that we see. So if we get a really super old deck, a lot of people are afraid of those because they think they're going to spend a lot of time sanding. But give me a 30-year-old deck, we'll strip that thing and we'll be in and out on them, and we probably won't have to sand anything. We might bring the floor sander and run over it just for good measure, but it's not going to be required. Some of those 2 to 3 year old decks, sometimes you clean them and it looks like a carpet on top of it when you're done because there's just so much dead cell wood. So we got a question from Richard here. So could you just sand it and not apply chemical? In some areas you can sand without applying chemicals, but not most areas. And here's why: organic growth. You got algae, mildew, you got things like that. You got stains, you got oil stains, you got stuff from the barbecue grill, candle wax. Maybe you got paint drips from the guy who painted the ceiling of the covered deck and he wiped them up, but they're still there. When you put walnut stain on it, they pop out and you can see them. Chemical will pull all that stuff out. If you're down in San Antonio, like Will over at San Antonio Stain, it's like 175 degrees down there all year long. They don't have organic growth. If you come to Tennessee or Louisiana or South Georgia, or maybe up in Michigan or Wisconsin or Oregon, those guys we've got in Chicago, they have organic growth, and you've got to kill it or it's going to come back with a vengeance. So sanding, yeah, you can do it if you're in the right place. Maybe Southern California, New Mexico, Arizona, Southern Texas. You got to realize San Antonio is almost as south as it gets in America, except for the tip of Florida. So they're close to the equator. The closer you are to the equator, less organic growth and humidity you have. So keep that in mind. I would love to be able to go sand a deck and stain it the same day, but I would shoot myself in the foot because there would be organic growth there that we didn't kill, and it would bite us in the butt later. So fuzz, we talked about fuzz. You understand it. Don't be afraid of fuzz. Actually be excited about fuzz, because it means you can charge more money. You can spend more time on a project. You can make it look better, and you can make more money doing it. So next, I'm going to show you a project that one of our fine guys that we work with did using sodium metasilicate wood cleaner. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen jobs like this, and maybe you've done them with bleach, and you weren't satisfied with the results. Maybe it fuzzed really bad, or maybe you just ran away and you said, I am not touching that, not at all. So this is the kind of job I'm looking for, because this is a job that the homeowner has pretty much lost hope on it. They're thinking, I got to rebuild this thing. But if you look at the structure, it's a nice structure. It's braced well. It's got nice white trim, aluminum railings. It's a screen porch. It's attached with a roof that goes up into the roof line of the house. You can't see. So this is major construction on this house if they have to replace this. They might redeck it, but they've still got the framework and stuff that looks terrible. So no matter how they go about redoing this deck, they're going to spend a ton of money on it. So what can we do? So here's what my diagnosis on this is: 1 cup per gallon with wood cleaner, which is also known as sodium metasilicate. Let it sit, let it dwell as long as it needs to, and then voila, you get something like this right here. And this is the finished product. I'm sorry, I got that text box in the way. I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can see it and look at this to see what it looks like. It's clean. It looks nice. I don't see a lot of fuzz, and I'm going to show you what fuzz looks like in a minute. But this is really brightened up. The wood looks brand new. How many of you, if you don't mind, give me a thumbs up or raise your hand or something in the chat box. Could you offer this service to your company? And did you think it would come that clean? And be honest, did you think it would come that clean? Give me a yes or a no. And then if you could do this, give me a thumbs up in the box there if you don't mind. But there it is. That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to minimize this back down to the original size so we can move to the next slide. But I'm going to show you what it looked like after it was stained and sealed to kind of get you excited about wood restoration, because it's possible. And you just gotta learn things like what we're teaching here, because this is stuff that I didn't learn this until I'd been in the business for years. And I remember sitting on the couch wondering what the heck a wood brightener was. And you don't know what you don't know. So anyways, 1 cup per gallon wood cleaner, plenty of dwell time. And that 1 cup per gallon was strong enough to cut through most of this, all the dead cell wood on the top. They removed it. They used pressure. So a lot of guys are going to tell you, oh, we got to soft wash everything. If you don't soft wash wood, you're abusing wood. Yes and no. You can soft wash wood and do a great job. And then there comes times where it doesn't matter how strong your chemical is. You've got to use pressure. I like to see medium pressure. High pressure is pretty rare, but you're going to have to use pressure. That's why you got a pressure washer. Otherwise, we'd be using a garden hose for this stuff. So don't let these soft wash guys get you stuck in a mindset where you're afraid to use pressure, because as you start doing these, you're going to realize it takes a little bit of pressure to do some of these jobs. But this one here, again, did not buzz. It didn't go crazy, because the chemical was strong enough. The wood was old enough that when we put the chemical on, all that buzz, the dead cell wood, we removed it. So we removed it with pressure, so there was no fuzz. If I'm doing this level of a clean job for a customer, I'm probably going to sand it. And here's probably what I would sand. The rails right here are minimal. And if they came clean without any fuzz on them, I would not sand them, but I would definitely sand the flats. The flats are the floors, the step tops, the tops of the steps, and the top of this railing. I would sand that up just so it looks nice. You can charge more money for it and it looks great. But other than that, that's the max I would sand on this. But here we go. Here is the next picture. Here's what it looks like with semi-transparent pecan stain on it. So do you think that customer was happy with the outcome of this? Give me a thumbs up if you say yes to that. But man, I mean, when I realized that we could be doing this for people, it changed our whole business. And it gave us a lot more that we could do on rainy days. because the stain guy, what do we fear the most? Well, rainy days. Well, now we've got a solution for those rainy days. And here it is wood restoration. So, so now what I would like to do is I would like to go through and look at a couple of different jobs. There we go. Let's go with that one. I can blow that picture up where you can see it a little better. And I'm going to go back here and do the same thing. But as we go through, I got quite a few pictures. If you look at these slides, basically now what I would like to do is kind of play a little bit of Q&A. And we're going to do that by just going back and forth with one another. And we're going to show these projects here that, and I'm going to say, let you guys type in the box. What would you use? What chemical and what mix? I kind of want to play a game. And then you put what you think, and then I'm going to tell you what I would do. And there's not really a right answer, but we're going to be in a correct range. And what I want to do is get you guys identifying what should I do on this project, what will work, and we're just going to go with basic wash, 5-step process, or full restoration for our terms, and go from there. So. And again, I want to make sure that I did give credit to this wonderful before and after from David Berry over at Pine State Power Washing over in Raleigh, North Carolina. Fantastic guy, fantastic family, and they obviously do good work. And so I just wanted to make sure he got credit for this before and after photo set, because that is his job site. Next, what would you use for this? This looks to me like a treated pine pergola. Looks like a fun job. The fence looks the same. So for intensive purposes, we'll go with the fence as well. What could you use for this? Write it in the box if you don't mind. What chemical? You can use the trade name or our company name, Eco Cleaner, Wood Cleaner, or you could go with sodium percarbonate or sodium metasilicate or wood stripper. Put the name in the box, what you think, and then how many cups per gallon you think. Give me a guess, guys. Go for it. Want to see some participation, please. Brad, Brendan, Brock, Brooke, David, Don, Jansen, Justin, Keela, Matt, Matthew, Richard, we got Ricky, we got Jacob, we got Sully, we got Kenny, we got Stainman, Will over in San Antonio. What's up, Will? Looking forward to your report. We got Zach. Appreciate you guys. And any of you older guys that have been doing this stuff, Will, Kenny, there's a lot of guys in here got a lot more experience than me. If I mess something up, hey, call me on it, because I want to know. I want to fix it. So if my opinion differs from yours, let's talk about it. I'm not scared of a little confrontation there. So let's see here. So I'm seeing a lot of wood cleaner, 4 ounces, Eco, then Brightener, 1 cup per gallon. So let's talk about what we can do. On this one, we can use anything. We can use bleach, we can use Eco Cleaner, we can use our wood cleaner, we can use wood stripper. They all work, and I'd recommend using wood brightener on all of them. What we would use on this is probably, let's see here. I'm looking at a couple of things here. I got glass here, so I need to be careful of the glass. You don't want chemicals drying on glass because it's just hard to remove. And oxalic acid wood brightener can etch glass. It's got to be super strong and it's got to be on there, but it can etch glass. So you just want to rinse. If you get brightener on windows, or even wood cleaner, wood stripper, wood Eco Cleaner, scrub brush, soap and water, rinse, take it right off. If you let it dry, you got other issues. But for this one here, I would say you could go with an Eco Cleaner boosted with hydrogen peroxide. That would work here. 1 cup per gallon of Eco Cleaner. I don't have to worry about it getting on any of these plants. I don't have to worry about anything going crazy with the house. That would work. I would probably bid this job so high we didn't get it, just to be honest, because I don't like pergolas, but some of you guys love them. So Eco Cleaner is a good choice because it's going to come back down on your operators. It's just going to be a good choice. It's not going to be the best clean job. You're going to have to work for this one a little bit more than you would a normal project. And the same on the fence. You could do the Eco Cleaner on the fence. I would go straight up with sodium metasilicate or wood cleaner, because it's going to just do a better job faster. So here's what I'm probably going to do on this. I'm going to go Eco Cleaner, because it's gentle on my people. And then I'm going to recommend a semi-solid color for this because it's a pine pergola. It's not cedar, it's treated pine. So let's cover it up with something with a little bit of color to it. So that's what I would do on this one. You could use any of them. I would use the Eco Cleaner just because it's eco-friendly. Here we go on this one here. So we're working with a treated pine picket fence. This is a smooth picket, which we don't see very often. That means it's old. It's a smooth picket, as you notice, and it doesn't look too bad right here. We got algae stains at the bottom. We got dead cell wood on top. We got lichen or like organic growth on the top. But if you look at the back of this fence, that's probably the north side. Look at all that growth on the back. These things have an inch of green stuff growing on it. What am I going to use on that one? Put it in the box. What you going to use on this fence, guys? And is this going to be easy or hard? What do you think? Easy job, hard job, and what would you use? Yeah, Kenny says plants and overhead working for the last one. Yep. So give me your diagnosis on this one, guys. Is this an easy job or a hard job? I'm going to go ahead and tell you this could be an easy or a hard job, depending on how you tackle it and what expectation you set with your customer. Some guys would come in and just bleach this. They could do a basic wash. And when they do that, they're not going to remove any of the organic growth. They're still going to leave all this stuff on there. And maybe if like you got a guy who's a slum lord and he wants to give you the bottom basement pricing and he wants the bottom bargain basement service, you could just bleach it and walk away with a crappy stain job. But to get this job right, this one's going to be tough for a couple of reasons. It's smooth, so it's going to be harder to clean just because it's smooth. And when I say harder to clean, I mean there's a rough cut fence like this would be easier to remove that top layer off because it's kind of fuzzy to begin with. This one's smooth, so it's going to use just a little more pressure to clean it. On the back row here, I'm going to go with stripper. I'm going to strip this thing. Kenny Dugan's going to go with Picard boosted if concerned with blow through on the grass. We're probably going to go with a mild stripper. So either a light stripper mix, and we would hold a backer board and strip all of this, wet all the grass down, hold a backer board and apply our stripper. Same thing on the other side, and use that to cut and burn through that organic growth that's on there quickly. On the front, if the whole fence was just like what's on the front, we could just go with our basic wood cleaner or sodium percarbonate boosted. But for me, I want to get in and out on this thing as fast as we can, and that's where a stripper would work. No matter what chemical you use here, you've got to use pressure on this job. It doesn't matter. You just, in Tennessee, we get these jobs. This is a job in Tennessee. We get these, and you've got to use pressure on them, not on the front, but on this back row here. And again, I'm going to zoom in on this back row so you guys can see what we're talking about there. That's some nasty growth. That black that you see, that is not just discoloration. That is growth, and it's thick and heavy growth. If you feel it and you rub your hand across that, it'll feel like 40 grit sandpaper. All right, let's move on. What have we here? What is that? So what would you guys do here? An easy job or a hard job? So this looks to me like a basic strip job. It looks like it could be just in photos. I don't know. But in photos, it looks like it could be a water base, and it could be an oil base. It's hard to say, but my gut's telling me that this is just a water base that has failed, and it's past its prime. So it's time to do a full restoration on this. That's what we would do. We would call it a full restoration. We would use our wood stripper, and we would probably add booster to it. If we found out and we got there and we saw, we would probably just do a test. Is this oil or water? And we probably wouldn't even test it. We would probably just look for film and just look at it and see what it looks like and guess, because our guys have been doing it long enough. They could pretty well tell. But my guess is a wood stripper with butyl booster added, and you're going to have to use a little bit of pressure. And you may decide you just want to leave the rails alone and do an oil base on the floor and on the top cap and on the stair treads, and then just do basic wash on these spindles and go back with the same type of solid on the spindles to save your customer money. Generally, the point of diminishing returns is hit pretty quickly on spindles, because look at those. You got to strip them. It's just a lot of work. The stain just really doesn't want to come off of those. Stripper tends to run off of them, and you don't get a good bite with your stripper. So I would pass on stripping those. Strip the floor, do a full restoration on it, come back with oil base. You can also, if it's your service area and it's your standard, like up in Michigan, solids are real common. You could strip it, you could sand it, you could prime the cracks, and you could put another coat of water-based solid on there too. That is an option. All right, guys, what would you do on this one? Give me what you would do on this one. This is a treated pine deck. Let's zoom in here and see what we got. Looks like, I think those are 5. Yeah, those are 5-quarter boards. They almost look like 2x6s. And this is a deck right here in Middle Tennessee, typical of the backyards we get. There's stuff all over the deck, like furniture, and there's a treasure chest on there. So we've got a spot we can see that we're going to have to do something to. We're going to have to do something to blend that in. We got some black stuff growing up under here. Step looks really old and bad. And we got stuff hanging between the cracks here. So we know we got some trees hanging from overhead, dropping stuff down on it. So that deck doesn't look too bad in pictures, but it's probably going to be more work than you think. And this deck could fuzz. So what would I use on this one? I would do a 5-step process, and I would sand the lumber stamps. If I was going with Eco Cleaner, if we got there and we made that call and we said, hey, I think Eco Cleaner will actually work on this without fuzzing, then we might go that route, because there could be a koi pond over here. There could be something going on that we don't see. But most likely what we're going to use on this one is a 1/2 cup to a whole cup per gallon of sodium metasilicate or wood stripper. And I said a 1/2 cup or a whole cup. It's hard to tell in pictures. We may get there, and a 1/2 cup per gallon would do this whole deck, except for the steps and maybe this cover board here, and maybe a few places that we needed to spot treat with a stronger mix. So maybe you do your first batch, you mix up a pump up sprayer, and you do the whole deck with it. And then at the end, when you maybe got this much left in your pump sprayer, you boost it up, add a little more wood cleaner, and then you hit the hard spots, hit this step here, hit this underside. That would work too. And you guys, I'm telling you this so you start getting creative with your cleaning process and understand that one size doesn't fit all. I would use the sodium metasilicate, like I said, if it wasn't something that required an ultra eco-friendly approach. Another alternative, so somebody's asking wood stripper or wood cleaner. Wood stripper is a mild cleaner. Wood cleaner is a mild stripper. You can use wood stripper as a mild cleaner, like I said before, if you back it off. So if all you had on your truck was wood stripper, go a 1/4 cup guy and test it. Should be fine. Yeah, Kenny, this is a new deck, nothing on it. I see it said could be a toner, nothing on this deck. This was a new deck. I think we've already done this job and there was nothing on it. Let's see here. Let's move on. But again, 5-step process. Remove those lumber stamps, make it look great. What have we got here? Everybody's nightmare, it looks like. Tell me about this one. So some guys are asking if you wet the deck first. It depends. Everybody's probably got a little varying opinion of that. But the idea of wetting the wood first is a couple of things. One is if we've got all this layers of stuff, and the stuff we're trying to get off is in this top layer, if the wood's dry, and our chemical is going to go all the way down through, or at least a pretty good way down through. If we wet this thing, and then these layers down here get wet, and then this top layer dries off and it's kind of drying, but down here is wet, we can apply a chemical to that, and our chemical is going to hit this barrier because it's already saturated, and it'll work in that top layer. Some stuff we pre-wet, most decking we pre-wet, some fencing we even pre-wet. It just depends. On this one, I can't really tell a lot about it. Maybe I'll pre-wet it, maybe I won't. Another reason to pre-wet is you use less chemical. I know a lot of power wash guys will pre-wet concrete before they put their SH on it because they use less chemicals. So for me, it's up in the air. It's a case by case thing. We would decide that on the job site, but you could definitely pre-wet this one. It wouldn't hurt. What would you do on this one? This right here. What does it look like to you, and what would you do on it? So this to me looks like, this one to me looks like a full restoration, because this deck is terrible. It is literally peeling off. You can see it on top of the deck there. There's pieces peeling off, but there's a couple of other things that I want you to notice about this deck that's really bad, and you can get in trouble. Kenny, do you see it? How could you get into deep trouble on this deck? Well, if nobody's going to say it, yeah, broken boards. We've got a broken / kind of rotted board here. We've got another one here. I see a broken part right here. Chances are that this deck's sitting, let's look, we can see right here, this deck's probably sitting 6 inches off the ground. And probably what's happened is they've put an oil or a water base film forming stain on top, and it's 6 inches off the ground. And I bet they got an underpinning around it too on the outside. So this deck can't breathe. Moisture comes up through the ground, gets these deck boards wet, and they never dry, and it rots out from the bottom. That happens all the time here in Tennessee. And if you just walk into this thing blindfolded, you could get on a project and you could find that there's 20 boards that need replacing. So David Batterton says run. I wouldn't run. If you're capable of making repairs, this is a great project for you. You could find all the bad boards, you could replace them, and you could go back with some kind of a semi-solid stain or a solid stain if you're in a water-based market. You could also redeck the whole top and, go ahead and strip whatever you're going to keep, and then pull these off, replace them with new boards, kiln dried boards, maybe, and go make yourself some money. So this one is possible. If the holes weren't in the deck, there were no rotten boards there, I'd do a full restoration on it. I'd use Butyl Boost and Stripper. I would use a lot of pressure on this one to make it go by fast, because I know I'm going to sand it. Use a lot of pressure, get your material off of there quick as you can, keep your job site as neat as you can, put masking, maybe tarps around the outside so that you blow any chips over onto those tarps so you can haul them away, and then come back and sand it. You'll sand that one fast. It's flat. I don't see any railings. There may not be any railings. That's even better. Let's see here. Next, moving on. What do we got here? All right. What brand stain is that? Let's see if anybody knows. Could just about guarantee you it's one of two things. That looks to me like a bare cedar tone in like a solid or a semi-transparent that they've just put coats and coats and coats on and built it up to solid. It looks solid here on the edge, but on the side, it's obviously semi-trans. So looks to me like a bare, possibly Olympic, but looks to me like Home Depot. Somebody went to Home Depot on this one. Again, here, I would call this a full restoration, because I'm not in the business of doing a lot of solid paints or stains. You could definitely just do a light wash, remove the loose stuff, and then go over it with a solid. For me, and what we actually did, we did a full strip on this. It was pretty quick. We masked the patio furniture, stripped it, came back a week or two later, did pecan oil base, and put fence armor on that one. It was quick. I think there was one of these on both sides of this courtyard. So that was a quick in and out. And this thing with Butyl Booster, it stripped really fast and really easy. So easy one there, full restoration. And don't be afraid to charge a pretty decent minimum for small projects like this, because you're gonna have to put man hours in it. All right, what do you got here? This one will get you in trouble if you bid off of pictures. A lot of people will look at this and they'll go, oh, that just needs cleaned. But actually, we've got a film forming finish on it. We got a lot of organic growth. So we probably got a northern exposure. We've got a lot of shade in the backyard. We got a creek running through here. It's wet. I see a timer here, like hanging over the deck. There's a timer. So they're probably watering the yard, watering the flowers, and this thing's staying wet. So we got to clean it in a certain way. And then we've got to put a certain product on there that's going to be less likely to turn green, or at least put them on a maintenance plan. So on this thing, this is a high-end deck. I'm looking at the siding on the house, and I'm guessing this is probably over in East Nashville, high rent section. That's probably one of those skinny houses that's like 20 feet wide and 4 stories tall for $1 million. So I'm going to steer this customer towards a full restoration. Even though it's a semi-transparent, I'm still going to say full restoration. I'm going to go 1 cup per gallon wood stripper, and I'm going to boost it with butyl because it looks like a water base. And we're going to sand everything on this, and we're going to give them a knockout premium service. That's what we would do. Alternatives would be, you could clean it and go back with semi-trans water base if you're into that. I'm just not into the water-based coatings because they're tougher to work with in the semi-transparent version. Solids are pretty easy to work with, but you got to have more finesse with the semi-trans to eliminate lap marks and runs and things like that. The 5-step, you don't have to, you can say 5-step because you are going to remove lumber stamps, but really it's just a 4-step process on this one, because the lumber stamps are going to go away when you clean it with your stripper. What do we got here? What is that right there, Mr. Will over in San Antonio? What stain is that one? What do you think that is? And what would you guys do? Zoom in on it. Will probably knows exactly what it is. I'm guessing, I'm going to say mahogany flame cabbage. That's kind of what it looks like to me, and like a semi-transparent, built up over time to be, looks like it's probably had multiple applications because I see light and dark and the same finish right down here where my cursor is. Tells me they probably painted it, stained it, and then came back later and did it again, maybe a year or 2 years later, in some spots that were peeling. And now we got this 2-tone look. We got stuff peeling everywhere. Same thing. I'm doing a full restoration on this. If it's on the railings, and it's most likely it would be intact and still look good on the railings. So if the railings were good, I would just do a basic wash on the railings, and I would strip this off, sand it, and then do just a matching oil-based semi-trans on the floor. That's a good way to do it, and it would work. You could also, if you're into it, you could do solid. You could strip this off and do a solid. You might sand it. A lot of options, but for me, full restoration, stripper with butyl booster, and then brighten it, then sand it, then oil base. What do you got here? It's a Western cedar fence. I'm guessing it is 7-8 months old. It's a Tennessee backyard, irrigated yard, but no sprinkler marks. Sprinkler marks aren't as bad here. He says that's Cabot timber oil. That might be oil-based, man. I don't know my Cabot products. That might be oil-based. If it was, it'll strip really easy. So what would you guys do right here? I would go right here. You've got 2 options with this fence. You can do a basic wash with 1%, maybe 2% bleach. Will do a pretty good job. If you're going to go with a semi-transparent on this, it will work just fine. If you're doing a 4-step or a 5-step process, I would go eco cleaner, 3/4 to 1 cup per gallon, and then I'd brighten it, and this thing will look brand new. It'll look unbelievable. Your customer will think you're a miracle worker on this fence. I don't like the SH as much because it's going to leave it bleached out. It's going to clean it. It's going to look great when it's wet, but when it dries, it's going to look kind of bleached out. If you go with the eco cleaner, it won't look as bleached out. It's still not going to be quite as bright as some of the other cleaners, but it will not be near as white as if you used bleach. What about this one? This is a treated pine scallop top fence, again in Middle Tennessee. Looks like the yard is irrigated, or at least looks like it holds some moisture. So as we zoom in here, there's probably like a little ditch here. See how green the grass is here? And then see how in this area, particularly right through here, we've got stuff coming up from the bottom, this black. That means this ground stays wet a lot, and they're going to have problems. So you need to point that out to your customer and say, hey, you should do a couple of things. You can cut the bottoms of the boards off. You could start here, pop a string line, and just cut 1 inch off of this. that will help. Or you can have your customer dig out the dirt, maybe put gravel in. You can do a few things to kind of prolong the life of this fence here, and you should charge for that service. But point it out. You need to be looking for that. Another reason you need to look for that is you're going to try to stain this fence, and the whole fence is going to be dry. This section here is going to be wet from the ground halfway up, and it's not going to take stain the same, and it's going to be an issue for your customer. So if they're not willing to fix this ground issue, then they need to be willing to accept the fact that there could be some discoloration in the stain here due to moisture issues. So what can you do on this one? If you're going with a solid or a semi-solid or a dark semi-trans, you could do a basic bleach wash. 3% bleach will work well on this. It's treated pine, so it's not going to clean up as good as cedar. That's just the nature of the beast. You could also do wood cleaner, sodium metasilicate on this, and then a wood brightener with a 4-step process. And that would go a long way towards making this look really nice. Will says 2% bleach. I'm right there with you. 2% would work. 3%, I'm going to say 3% because it's treated pine. It's hard to clean. It just does not clean as good as cedar. If it were cedar, I'd definitely go 2%. And semi-solid oil base, that's what I do. I do sable brown on this sucker, and it looked great. Right here you go. This is kind of in the shade, so it might be fooling us a little bit. What do you notice about this fence? First thing is it's got freaking light bulbs hanging off of it that your guys are going to break 3 out of 4 light bulbs when they take this off and put it back on. So here's what you need to do. You need to tell your customer up front, hey, we're coming on Tuesday to clean the fence. I need you to have the lights, the birdhouses, the thermometers, the whatever's mounted to this fence. I need to have it removed and gone before we get there, or we're not going to do the job. And then make sure they confirm that they're removed. And somebody said new wood. No, it looks like it probably, but there's not. This is a post, and it just held up better. Here's a post. It turned white. Here's a post. It's a little lighter colored. So that's just, it is what it is. And it looks like it's completely treated pine. So you could probably do 2 to 3% bleach on this one. That would work. Basic wash. If it's a budget customer, then go anything chestnut to walnut colors. If you do semi-trans or maybe like a sable brown, chocolate brown, a gray, those customers that want gray fences are awesome for putting gray stain on because they're already gray. It makes it really nice and easy. So you could definitely do that. I would still clean it if I ever did the grays over this. Still clean it. Yeah, and a part of that, taking the bird houses and the lights down, you got to weed eat it. Have them weed eat it. We've got a letter that goes out when we close the job that says weed eat under your fence. It's part of the requirements they got to do. And 4-step process would work on this one as well. Sodium metasilicate. This is probably a little strong for eco cleaner. It would work, but it would work faster with wood cleaner. What do we got right here? So I'll zoom in on this for you guys. Looks like water base, I'm guessing. And it looks like it could be some kind of film former. I'm trying to guess the color. Again, I think this is Bear or Olympic. I think it's probably like Bear. Can't think of the name, like honey gold or something. I can't remember what the name is, or antique bronze, some name, but that's kind of a popular color around here. It looks like baby poop yellow, and I see it's built up a lot right here. But there's another stain that this could also be. The old Wood Defender Universal series, they had a Universal Universal Cedar Tone, I think it was called, and it would do this. It would film up really hard in some areas, like you see here, and then it would look like an oil-based semi-trans in other areas. That could very well be what this is on this. So you need to be prepared. Is it oil-based or is it water-based if you're going to strip it? I see some organic green growth up here on this rail, so that means there's probably some up on top, and there may be a pool on this thing. You never know. It could be a pool in here. So you need to charge accordingly. But this project is really one of those ones that we probably bid high because it's going to be a lot of work to strip and sand every bit of this. And we just sort of don't want to work with a lot of water base. And let me preface that with this. We manufacture oil-based stains. We have them here. We make water-based stains as well, but not as many. We don't really fool with going over these kind of finishes with our water bases, because our water-based stains are still penetrating. So for us to do this, we would have to go to Home Depot and get this product. Our guys are not really familiar, at least on a large scale, not all of them are familiar with working with these type products. So we choose not to. That doesn't mean you can't. We're not going to go to Home Depot and use this stain. We're just not going to do it. Because we're trying to scale our business, and we want to be doing the same steps over and over so that we can scale. If we have to do this up and down thing where we're using all these different products, it's just going to slow our time on jobs down and make our overall, it's just going to be, we're spinning our wheels. So on this job, we would bid it high enough that we probably wouldn't get it. But for you guys, you could do a full restoration, you could do a bleach wash, and get the high spots and just do another coat. You got a lot of options on this. Will, I'd like to know what you would do on this job, because this is not one I would typically take on. Take a water break, wait for Will to respond, and you guys type in the box, what do you think you would do? Will may have gone home. Nope, he's still here. Let's move on to the next one. Water base here. What do we got? What have we got right here? So we've got, this looks like a dream job, right? We got a nice creamy green, creamy white color on this deck. It looks like it's about 7 or 8 feet up in the air. There's a black aluminum fence behind it, about 7 to 10 feet behind it. So when we strip this thing, it's going to blow white paint that's activated with a stripper all over this aluminum fence that is black. So you'd be thinking about that. You're going to really probably want to mask that fence, or at least just throw drop cloths all over that fence. But you may not want to ruin your drop cloths, so you can use plastic too. This one here, you got to do a full strip. It's a full restoration if you do it. The railings look pretty good. So one option is to strip the entire floor, strip the top rail, and go with a semi-transparent oil base on the floor, maybe a semi-solid oil base on the floor, and two-tone that thing. The rails are already white, so you could do another coat of this white on here. I'm not a fan of that because it's a lot of work, but this one's already got a coat of white, so the white would be a lot easier. So you could literally go through here, do a nice coat of white on it with drop cloths on the floor. Once you finished all that up, and maybe go to eat lunch, come back, and the spindles and all this are reasonably dry. Pull your drop cloths up, get your stain pads or your mitts, whatever you're going to use, and then put an oil base on it, and you could do really well with that one. But full restoration, full strip. I'm not stripping the spindles. I'm just stripping the flats, and I'm going to use butyl booster, and I'm going to mask the fence behind it. And these white chips are going to be visible in the yard, unlike brown chips. If you get brown wood stain chips in the yard, people aren't really going to notice that, but these white ones are going to show up in the backyard. So your customer needs to be aware that, hey, the bigger a mess we make means the better job we did when it comes to stripping this. So expect that to happen. All right, we're going to move back. Will says it looks like bear. I agree. He would do a chemical wash and a hard power wash, and then a light sand and semi-solid oil stain. So sounds like he would strip that off. You never know. If it's not holding a sealer anymore, like some of these places definitely still sealed, but if the water base is worn through and it's not water shedding anymore, you can put oil base over water base, but it can't be sealed. So here, let's move on to this fence. Pretty typical fence in my area. As you see what our neighborhoods look like, this fence is being built, the framework's up, there's a privacy fence there, there's a privacy fence here, there's a white vinyl fence here, there's another wood fence here. So what am I going to do in this backyard? I'm already seeing some weirdness here. So, and I'm going to start pointing it out to you. One is that this fence, this is the presentation side of this fence. It is facing inside this backyard. Typically, the framework would be inside the backyard. So is this the neighbor's fence? Whose fence is this? I want to ask myself. Secondly, I see in the picture that may be way far away. That may be way on the other side of the neighbor's yard, but it might be a white vinyl fence right next to this fence. If it is, you're going to get stain on it and you need to mask it. And you need to charge to do that. But if not, you know, you need to watch the wind. You could still get stuff on it if it's across the yard. So that is something you need to consider. I would do either, if it was a budget-minded customer, basic bleach wash, 2%. If it was somebody who wanted the 4-step process, I would go eco cleaner, and then, which is sodium percarbonate, and then just go with a wood brightener on it. Would work really well for that. And you could get away with anything from pecan. You could get away with chestnut, walnut. You could do like a mahogany color on this. It'd be beautiful. Any of the semi-solids would work. Any of the gray stains would work well on this. And being that this is treated pine, a semi-solid might be a really good choice for this because it'll blend it in really well. Pretty crappy boards. I see lots of knots and just not the greatest looking wood in the world. So there's that one. What have we here? This looks to me, if memory serves me, this is a job that we stained years and years ago with like a wood defender or something like that, back in the day before we made stains. So at any rate, it looks to me like a oil-based semi-transparent or semi-solid stain. It's failed, it's gone, it's time to replace it. If I'm going right back with the same color, like if we come back and put our chocolate brown semi-solid over this, you could do a basic wash, or you could do a 4-step with eco cleaner and wood brightener. You could do, if you wanted to pull this off, let's say the customer wanted to go with something like a golden color, or maybe like a red, like a semi-solid red, like let's just talk about it with color for a minute. Like say they wanted to go with this auburn color. You could use sodium metasilicate, also known as wood cleaner, at 1 cup per gallon, and it'll pull just about all of that off. It might stay in the knots in a few places, but it should just immediately pull that off. We did a training video yesterday. We put 1 cup per gallon wood cleaner on something about like this, and just as soon as it touched it, the stain was gone. So wood cleaner works really well on these oil bases. And then, like I said, do the basic wash or the 4-step, come back, put a semi-solid over it. I'm going to steer my customer towards sable or chocolate on this job, which is these are medium browns. This is a wood sample on treated pine. So sable or chocolate. All right, moving on. What have we got here? We got some kind of this. I don't know what it is, but I'm thinking Sherwin-Williams. This looks like a Sherwin-Williams water base, maybe. I think the longer you do this, the more you just look at it and you have a gut feeling as to what stain that is. That's the only way I'm guessing this stuff. But I think this is Sherwin-Williams solid or Behr Sierra color called Sierra that Behr makes a solid color. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing some probably raised grain. The woods, the grain's popping up, the stain's failing, it's coming off, it's chipping. This is another one of those jobs that we're probably going to try to turn away, or we're going to do a full restoration on the floor and charge a lot of money for it. This one's going to be time consuming for us because we would want to two-tone it. But you could do that. But guys like Will, you might sand it. And if you don't mind, put your thoughts in there, Will, what you would do. I'm guessing Will would probably sand a lot of this off and then prime with a clear primer in the cracks, and then go back with whatever, semi-solid or solid. Yeah, and somebody asked, are we hitting the spindles with chemical and sand? Yeah, you can hit it just depends on your process. If you're not stripping the spindles, then yeah, you could throw eco cleaner on all the spindles and just prep it. Some guys would bleach these decks, but I wouldn't advise it. So that's that. I hope that helps just get you guys thinking about what the process is on these things. And we probably should have gone over man hours. So I'm going to buzz right back through these and talk about man hours. So this one here probably took 3 man hours to clean, maybe 4. This one here is probably a half a day job for 2 guys. This one probably 3 to 4 man hours. It could be up to 8 man hours depending on it. And our guys are running 2 guns. So we generally have 2 power wash guns on our rigs. So 2 guys would be doing this. This one here, if this, let's just say this is a 10 by 16 deck, probably a couple hours, 3 hours, 4 man hours. This one here, again, probably a 2 man hour job if the furniture was off of it and there was nothing too crazy going on. Full strip, that's probably a full day project here because you're doing board replacement, you're stripping, you're doing a lot of work. Wood stripper on this worked really fast. So this one in and out, I don't have the work order in front of me, but probably 2, I'm going to guess probably 2 man hours on this one. When you pull your stuff around, apply the chemical, in 10 minutes, it's ready to come off, power wash it, and off you go. This one here, probably full restoration. I don't know how far that deck goes around, but you might have 14 man hours in something like this because we're going to sand every surface. We're going to spend a lot of time on this one. Same thing here, a lot of time. If there's no spindles and it's just a floor, not too bad, especially Will says this is oil-based. So right here, probably 2 to 3 man hours on this, just because it's a fence, you're pulling hoses, you're pulling equipment. It's going to take a little time, but if you get fast and good, you could do it in less than 2. Same thing here, less than 2 man hours, 2 man hours. This one's going to take you some time. I'm guessing Will would know better than me on this one because we don't do a lot of these, but I'm guessing you could have, you might have anywhere from 10 to 20 man hours in this after you sanded it and you send a whole crew out there. You can't send one guy on a job like this because it's just going to overwhelm him. This job here, same thing. Probably you're going to have, the cleaning process isn't going to be that bad on this one. But one thing you do need to know that I didn't mention about this, if you don't get in between the cracks, you're going to have white stain left in between the cracks on this. And if you do walnut stain on it, they're going to see that. So you need to have a plan in place for that. So there's no right answer for that one, but you need to have a plan in place. You could do solid stain in the cracks and then, there's a lot of stuff you could do, but right here, probably 1 to 2 man hours. This one's super fast, 1 man hour probably to clean that. Strip this one here. You could be there a while, maybe 3 to 6 man hours on that strip. So hope that helps. Let's talk about equipment. I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, so I'm going to talk about equipment real quick. What can you apply your stains or your chemicals with? The cheapest way to get into the wood restoration business is to buy a pump-up sprayer, a 1-gallon pump-up sprayer, or 2 of them, one for a cleaner, one for a brightener, is really all you need to get started. You can also use 12-volt chemical sprayers that you can build at home. You can do downstreaming, which is really only good for bleach. You can use a brush and a bucket. If you can't even afford a pump sprayer, but you got a bucket and you got a brush, you can do it. You can use soft wash systems. If you've got some high-end equipment, like a soft wash system, you can do it. And that pretty much concludes our webinar on wood restoration. Now it's time for Q&A, and I'm going to cut this off at 8 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get some question and answer in. I'm going to cover a bit more ground. And while I do, start dropping your questions. So there's a question box where you can ask questions, and you can also ask them in the chat box. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys an offer, a free offer to save you some money if you do want to shop with us for your cleaning chemicals or your stains. All right. So number 1, our stain and sealers, obviously we make these, and we would love it if you would support us in this. 73% more pigment than our competitors. It says there is no real competition. The truth is, a lot of our stains have 100 to 150% more pigment than some of our competitors, but 73% just sounded really good. We make stains for contractors by contractors. I want my stains to last. I want them to look good. I want them to have rich color, deep color, and they do. And that's why you're starting to see our stains everywhere. A lot of contractors are switching, and for good reason. Stain and Seal Experts stain and sealers are perfect for fencing, decking, siding, and cabins. We offer them in transparent, semi-transparent, semi-solid, and even solid colors. Our stains are both oil and water-based formulas available, and we're 50 state compliant and Canada. You can buy our stains in all 50 states. We could ship them anywhere in the world and to Canada. So, which is a plus. If you're in California, we've got a true oil base that you can use in Southern California. Stain and Seal Expert stains contain 73% more pigment and 40% more oil than most other stains on the market. And we provide a higher quality and lower VOC stain. We're a real good stain. So we'd love it if you would look at our products. Here's something we want to give away to you right away for free. It is our app. So we've got an iPhone app. I don't talk about this near enough. We spend a ton of money on this app, and we give it away for free. And here's why. Number one, you can access Staining University, which is our Facebook group. If you haven't joined, go to Staining University on our Facebook group and get this app. Also, as it pairs with the app. The app is a stain calculator. If you're brand new and you have no idea how much stain to use the stain calculator. It has everything for fencing, for decking. You can measure with Google Earth and it'll tell you how much fence you've got. If you do fence armor, it'll tell you how much fence armor you need. If you're doing a new fence, an old fence, different styles, are you using a 50-foot hose or a 300-foot hose? Are you doing it by hand or with a sprayer? And it will quote your jobs for you. You can go in and put line item by line item, your cost in there, and then you go to a job site, you punch it in, and you get a price immediately. I've gotten testimonials from guys who said, I used to have to go home and crunch the numbers over and over again, overanalyze, and then the next day or two, send a quote to my customer. And he said, I was losing jobs because I didn't know how to quote them on the fly. This app will tell you exactly how much stain you need, and it will put your cost right there, and you can send a price right to your customer off the app, which guys are selling jobs right on the spot now because of this free app. So I'll encourage you to try it. It does fences and decks, good for both, and you can order your stain for your job right there on the app as well. And we're going to give you a free gift at the end of this at the end of this webinar. So sit tight. I see a couple of guys have left, but stay in. So when you're on the job, you need answers fast. That's why we made the app. It's for iOS, so you Droid guys, hang tight. We'll have that out soon. But you can showcase value-added products to your clients on site, calculate how much stain is needed for any fence or deck within seconds, add your own labor rates, and calculate job pricing fast to close more jobs. And you can get access expert tips, videos to the apps, and straight into the Facebook group. Again, just recapping, real good stain, guys. Really appreciate it. At Stain and Seal Experts, we design and test our products in real world conditions on the same fences and decks that you work on every day. They're the same ones we work on every day. Our products make a real impact with the low VOC, more eco-friendly. We're health conscious. Our stains don't stink. That's because there's no chemicals added. We don't add all the VOCs, the thinners, the things like that to use cheap pigments. We use the good stuff. Use higher end things we can suspend without the need of solvents. It's a really easy application. If you're on the fence about staining fences, know that our stains don't have to be back brushed. You don't have to worry about lap marks or runs. You spray it on and it literally will self level. You can back brush if you like, but you don't have to. The performance also is real performance for a real good stain job. Fence and deck stains and sealers, wood cleaners, wood strippers, wood brighteners. We also offer other supporting things like post saver sleeves for your fence builders, fence armor, degreasers. We make a killer degreaser. It'll get stain out of concrete. We sell boxes of rags, brushes, tips, whatever you need. And if you need something, get it from one of our dealers. You can go to realgoodstain.com, find a dealer online on our dealer directory. And if you want to be a dealer, let me know. or you can buy it direct by just going to orders@stainandsealexperts.com. Send an email. Christy will get it. We'll ship it the same exact day, and we'll ship it fast. We keep all our products in stock. We manufacture them right down below my feet in here in Nashville. A lot of people say, oh, they don't manufacture. We sure do. Come and see our operation. We make these things with love right here in Tennessee. We've got contractor and dealer pricing available. And if you order it by 3 p.m., we're going to ship it. And here's just a little info on becoming a dealer, because I know we get a lot of questions. How do we be a dealer? How do we get contractor or dealer pricing? We want to pair up with professionals to bring more value to our clients. And so we're looking for fence suppliers, lumber stores, power wash suppliers, contractors, paint stores, hardware stores, you name it. So if you want to find out more about being a dealer, here is our phone number, or you can email me directly, info@stainandsealexperts.com. Let's get into some Q&A, guys. I'm ready to do it. All right. Good morning to all from Moses, Ioana. Where are you coming from, man? You said good morning to all. I got to think that it's 7:44. Are you you must be like in India or on the other side of the world. Love to hear where you're at, Moses. Question number 1 from Chris. When staining an old deck with an older oil-based stain on it, can I put a new coat of darker oil base on top after a light clean, or will the stain underneath show through? Generally, yes. The answer to that question is generally yes. If you've got really bad light and dark spots you can't get rid of with your wash process, a new stain will accentuate that. So, but generally the answer is absolutely. You can generally cover, you can cover 3-year-old cedar tone with walnut, no problem. Richard asks, what's the difference between semi-trans and semi-solids? I thought I saw some solids lighter than semi-trans. You certainly did, Richard. Good observation. Let's see here. Semi-transparent stain highlights the wood grain. Look at that. You see that beautiful wood grain? This is chestnut. That's an oil base. Let's see here. Let's find us a water base. I'm a stain nerd. I got all these wood chips. This says black, but ignore it. This is a semi-transparent oil base that goes on with water. So this is a water-based stain that dries to an oil-based finish. This is really cool because it works the same as oil base, penetrating stain. So look for that very soon. But again, highlights the wood grain. And there you go. That is a semi-transparent. Let's find a semi-solid. Here is a semi-solid. This is slate gray. Notice how the wood grain is visible, but it's not accentuated. You can't see a difference. You can't see a difference in the wood grain. You know it's there, but it's all the same color. So the difference in semi-transparent or transparent versus semi-solid or solid colors is the type of pigment that is used. Transparent or transoxide pigments are used for semi-transparent or transparent stains. They're the same kind of the pigment that's used for like a brown beer bottle. You hold it up to the light and you can see through it. It's a transoxide pigment. Semi-solids or solids are made with opaque pigments or paint pigments that you can't see through them. They're solid. You can't see through. So that is the difference. They're usually a bigger particle size, and opaques, you can't see through them. So we make semi-solids out of those. So you can have semi-solid pigments in any color, just like you can with paint. So these are pine sample boards. Obviously, they're not as pretty as the cedar sample boards, but these are all semi-transparents. Semi-solids, here we go, right here. So notice how all the wood grain's still showing, but it's more colorful. It's more unnatural colors, where these over here are more just natural looking. So our semi-solids, a lot of people call them our Gucci colors because they're just fancy. They just look neat. And here again is another transparent pigment. You can see through, and it accentuates the wood grain. See the lines in that? It's accentuating that grain. So transparent pigments, if you got something ugly, they're going to show it off. So you better cover it with a semi-solid. Do you typically visit prospects in person before committing to a quote? Nope, I do not. So we've got 3 salesmen here. They do 90% of their stuff over the internet. So we get pictures just like what we saw there, and we get a video, we get pictures, we get all kind of things. to showcase what they want done. And we ask certain questions, probing questions to find out what's going on in the backyard and what their expectation is. And then we quote it based off of that. And there's some certain things you need to go off of where you can be very consistent in your pricing, which is square footage, linear footage of railing, and number of steps for decking. And then fencing would be square footage. We'll go into that in bidding, which is going to be another podcast or another webinar. So stay tuned for that. But no, typically we don't. We do have one guy who does a lot of cold calling and a lot of door knocking, and he'll go in person and do estimates. But 90% of our bids are closed, completely done without ever seeing an in-person visit. Some of you will disagree with that, but we're doing pretty big numbers without ever stepping out on the job site. So we got a guy and he's charting from Nigeria. Pleased to meet you. Are you a stain contractor? Do you stain wood? Tell us about that. Send me a private message if you don't mind on Facebook. I'd love to talk with you more. I would love to interview somebody from overseas that does the same thing we do on the other side of the world. Does your stain kill grass and plants? Pretty much any oil-based stain will suffocate grass or plants. And basically the way it works is you get oil on top of a living organism like grass, you get a greenhouse effect. Just like if you laid plastic on a yard, it's going to kill it. Same thing is going to happen with oil. So that's what happens. You get oil in a big area, you're going to get some killed grass, not necessarily because it's a harmful or bad chemical, because our stains are biodegradable, but you get a ton of oil on top of foliage. It's just going to get that greenhouse effect, and it's going to burn the foliage up. It's going to go away, just like bleach or anything else. Just a little bit different process is happening, but you get the same result. So just be careful. We don't really run into that. As long as you're not spilling a bucket of stain in the backyard, you're generally good. Zach says we got 2 dealers. Yeah. So Zach is, we've got 4 sales guys. I'm sorry, Zach. We have an outside sales guy in Texas. His name's Zach. Anybody who needs him. He said 2 new dealers today in Alvin, Texas. Bullseye Cleaning, which is an awesome power wash supply store. They're in Houston, and then a Kelly Moore Paints in Willis, Texas. That's awesome. So Moses, my question here is on what are we discussing today, because I'm late, seriously. Wood restoration. I'm sure you'll get a response later in your email to watch the whole thing. How do you keep oil off grass, cardboard along the whole fence? When you get good at this, you're going to be able to stain without really getting the grass stain on it. If you're using low pressure, like one of those low pressure, high volume, low pressure, it's a little harder because you're putting such a large volume of stain on. But with airless sprayer, most guys can go to an acceptable rate without getting stain on the grass. You got a picky customer, or you just want to offer a grass saver service, by all means, cut cardboard along the bottom of the fence works perfect. I used to do grass saver for $1 a foot, and just nobody really wanted it. And it just became one of those things that was a pain in the neck. Will asks, when are you going to make a semi-solid deck stain? We've been making a semi-solid deck stain for a pretty good while. We make it for old wood. We use opaque pigmentation. It's semi-solid. So we put it on super old decking. So old wood grain that is opened up and the pores are open where stain can go in it. If you got a brand new deck or a 2-year-old covered deck that never sees sun, it's not a good fit because it's a lot of color. So if you're interested in that, I'll send you some out, Will. But so what is the offer that I wanted to give you guys? Most of you guys, maybe you know me, maybe you've bought from before and you already know, but we're going to give you new guys who are new contractors with us just a thank you. And what that is basically a quick 25% off of all your orders. So we want to give you guys a dealer pricing for our stains. And a simple way you can get that, I might butcher this, but I'm going to double check. I believe it is Staining University / in fact, I'm going to change screens here and show it to you so you guys can go. And it is webinar. Let's see here. Webinar.staininguniversity.deals.deal. Let's see here. Yep, that's it. So we're going to swap screens here and let you see that. All right. So hopefully you guys can see my new screen here. So if you're a new contractor and you're thinking about getting into this, this will be a way to save you around $46 per bucket, something like that, $45 per bucket of stain, and get free shipping. If there's a dealer near you, go to the dealer, but if not, we'll ship it right out to you. And it's webinar.staininguniversity.com/deal. And put in your information. We'll send you out a promo code just for you, and you'll get a great deal on your stains. And again, guys, we really appreciate you. We do the best we can to bring information that we wish we would have learned a long time ago. And we try to bring it to you and give it to you for free. And we support that mission by selling great products for you guys. And I want to do a quick thing on Staining University. So everybody's asking us about in-person training. We do a ton of in-person training. I want to give you a calendar of events. Richmond, Virginia, we're going to be there August 19th and 20th. And that's Richmond, Virginia at Chesterfield Fence and More. We got Staining University Fence Install School. I'm going to be there. Our team's going to be there. Mr. Fence is going to be there building, showing you guys how to build a fence if you're into that. Joe Everest, the fencing expert, will be there. We're going to do real jobs with real products, with real equipment. And I'm not bringing equipment. So we're going to use the equipment that the guys bring. We got some other guys bringing equipment. So we're going to use the same equipment that you guys are using. We're going to clean stuff, fences, decks, not sure what all we're going to do. But we're definitely going to clean a fence and a deck, and we're definitely going to stain a fence and or a deck, probably both. Going to have some great marketing training there by Joe Everest. Great question and answer. We're going to do an entire Staining University to show you the whole thing about the staining business. Also going to be in Dallas. I'm not sure when. We're looking for a venue. I heard Kenny may have an idea for a venue, but we want to do one in Dallas. We're going to do one in Springfield, Missouri, and those two may be in October and November, or September and October. We're not sure yet. And then again in February 25th, 26th, and 27th, 2022, we'll be doing the big one in Nashville, anticipating about 500 contractors at that one, all for free training. Again, just can't wait to have you guys out there. So if we got any more questions, if not, we're going to wind this thing up, guys. You'll get an email sent to you probably within the next 15 minutes of a full recap on this. And there you go, guys. Appreciate your help. Appreciate you coming in. God bless every one of you. And if you need something, remember, we're just a phone call away. We got a full tech line. So we got a full office with, we got 14 people that sit in this office, and all of them know how to stain. All of them know how to troubleshoot equipment. They know how to troubleshoot stubborn finishes, some to more degrees than the other, but we can help you for sure. 615-785-1861. Call Stain and Seal Experts, and we will help you out of a tight spot. And with that being said, guys, have a good night, and thanks. Don't forget to get your promo code at webinar.staininguniversity.com/deal. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.